I just thought I'd get started in terms of talking about Shoppable Hangouts, and some of your viewers may not have come across Shoppable Hangouts previously, and I know that Eric, who will be joining us later, actually hosted an event himself, which we can probably put in the show notes, about actually with somebody from Google talking about this whole idea. So to do so, what I thought I'd do is share some screenshots in terms of what's going on at this point in time. And so you should see my screen now, and I thought I'd go back a little bit of way back to December time. So the idea of a Shoppable Hangout is that when we're hosting Hangouts on air, we actually can also have it so that people can look at content and actually click through to make a purchase. So I picked this example up first, and I should say I've got an article which you'll find on my Google Plus profile, but it's also at krishnaday.com/shoppable hangouts, which has got direct links to all of these examples I'm going to show you. I really like this example. It wasn't the first Shoppable Hangout, but it was actually with Best Buy, which for me was really a great idea. They partnered with Google and they had this event which was held just before December. Unfortunately, the video is no longer visible for us to look at, but you can see the event page. And the idea was what are last minute deals that you could look to make as in terms of a purchase in terms of from their store. So that was a brilliant idea. So the idea is you watch the event, and I'll come to how that works in a moment, but you watch the event, and as they were going through and reviewing the different products, if you so wished, you could then click through to actually make a purchase. And those links are still live as we speak now. The next example I wanted to give you, because I'm in Ireland and I always like to see examples in Europe, and this was in January. And in fact, another context for Ireland is that there's a gentleman that you might come across, such I know you're such a dapper dresser there, James, in the UK, is a gentleman called Darren Kennedy. He's an Irish fashion guru, so to speak, and he and somebody else co-hosted this event, and it was for Topman. So again, it was run on an event page on Google Plus, and they did a preview of the show of the autumn winter collection for Topman, and they also did behind the scenes coverage. And as those different items were being paraded, should we say, down the runway by gentlemen, then you actually could make a purchase. So then let's go on to the first sports event I ever saw, and in fact I think that ever happened. And I thought this was quite interesting. It was for NASCAR, and what they did in terms of in this particular event, and the guys in the US will be better versed at NASCAR, I'm sure, than I am, but actually had something I took a screenshot of inside the event in this case, where if you actually made a purchase while this event was on, and of course they were selling their kit and products, you actually got a bumper sticker. So there was something to incentivize you to make a purchase there. You got something unique to say, you know, I hung out with Dale Jr. and Jimmy. So that was really quite an interesting approach. That was in February. We've gone forward into March, and this is another one from the UK, where Nike and ASOS, the shopping channel actually, or shopping e-commerce site, partnered together, celebrating the 27th year of the Nike Air Max. And again, you could make purchases as they were reviewing different models there. And then let's move finally to this example, which was Cole, which was an online retailer again and store, and they actually brought in a designer that worked with them, so you could shop and you could watch and you could actually make a purchase of these new fashions that were about to be launched. So this was really interesting in terms of big brands partnering with this, but what about us? What happens if we're a smaller organization? And in fact, I just want to highlight something that you might have seen on some Hangouts. These Shoppable Hangouts are working in a way where you actually are going to click on a link. So an example would be a Q&A app. Have you ever seen a Hangout which has got a Q&A app in it? This is another one from ASOS. You actually click on that, and then that opens up the Hangout, and on the right-hand side, you'll see all of those links. And most of those links were then actually going back through a Google shopping area back into the people's websites. And so as an example, we'll see here on the right hand side on the Q&A app where it opens up and you can see that information. So it's the same approach that happens for the Shoppable Hangout. So what really intrigued me, which is probably why you invited me on to the show this week, was I saw some content being shared by a gentleman called Mike Downs, who's in the UK. He's a teacher, And I definitely recommend, if you're interested in this topic, to add him to your circles. And thanks to him, I've got some screenshots. So he has got an early release ability to actually have a look at what they're calling the Promotions app for Google Hangouts. Now, I really like the fact it's called a Promotions app rather than being a shoppable Hangout, and I'll come to that later, but it doesn't mean you have to always have something for sale. So let me come back to some examples for that a little bit later. But here's an example. It's a screenshot from his show that he's done several little tests. I think he's done 4 or 5 tests now. And in this particular one, he is a photographer, and he was showing an example of how he'd put together a series of links, and you actually could watch this, and he was talking about a particular store in the UK and also linking to products that they had. Now, this screenshot happens to be from YouTube, so what you see, and this is the thing that we're going to have to educate people about when this app becomes available, it says become part of the conversation, and it mentions Q&A apps, but in fact he's actually sharing things there about actually, the promoted content he has. So as an example, he's created a shopping shortlist within Google, and he put a whole bunch of products in there to be able to share in that event. And as he goes through the event, you actually can see him actually highlighting the different products, but when you click on them, you actually then go over to the particular site. So in this particular area, I can see on this screenshot, Camera World, and I can see the product, and if I clicked on that in real time, I would then be taken directly to that part of the website where it had that product. So that's really quite interesting. He also did another few tests as well. On this one, he was testing the Q&A app and also in terms of running it alongside the Shoppable Hangout app as well. So he's doing some really interesting testing. So you could have questions and answers coming up there, but you can't see them necessarily at the same time as you see in the products. So there's going to be a little bit of education that we need to do, but it certainly got me thinking about how you could start to use this promotions app to support your business strategy. And I was going to come back off the screen share now, but hopefully that's given us all some ideas. And I've got lots of ideas in terms of how you might use it. And that's why I like the fact it's not called a shoppable hangout. So take, for example, you're a non-profit. You could be linking over to where people could give you a donation. If you're an author, you might have a free chapter of your book available on your website, and you could link to that in terms of being able to do it. So Mike, I know, is with us here today. He's authored a book. He's got a chapter. He might have a chapter on his website. He could be incentivizing people to do that. He might have a special offer, which actually is for people who join him in a live event. And the other thing to add is that you can add these links as you progress. So it's testing. It's being tested at the minute. I'd highly recommend follow Mike Downs, but let me stop talking there and see what other thoughts you have about Shoppable Hangouts and the